Ever get that feeling?
Yeah.
You know, like you're the last to know what's happening in your own backyard. We're talking local government here. All those decisions that impact your daily life, schools, parks, even that weird smell coming from the water treatment plant. It's like we
Yeah.
should be in the loop, right?
It's a common disconnect. And this whole deep dive is about bridging that gap. We're diving into some excerpts from the Department of Technology, and they're making a really interesting case for radical transparency in city and county government, specifically opening up access to emails.
See, now when I hear government transparency,
Mm.
my eyes kind of glaze over. Sounds like paperwork, bureaucracy,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
But this article surprised me. They're talking about how this impacts everyone,
Mm-hmm.
voters, taxpayers, businesses, even just residents trying to live their lives.
Right. And the core idea is so simple, but it's powerful. Transparency builds trust. Think about it. A city that's known for backroom deals and hidden agendas. Do you trust their decisions?
Probably not.
Probably not. Now, contrast that with a city that's known for open records, where you can practically follow the decision-making process in real time. That's the kind of environment that fosters accountability and genuine civic engagement.
I was surprised how they broke it down by who benefits. Like for
Yeah.
me, as a voter, imagine being able to see how candidates have actually responded to constituent concerns in the past. Not just their campaign promises,
Yeah.
but their actual email correspondence.
Yeah.
That's a game changer.
Absolutely. It gives you a window into their priorities, their decision-making process, their responsiveness, all the things that are really hard to gauge from a campaign website.
Or a flyer. And it's not just about elections. The article gave this great example about how this could help taxpayers follow the money, so to speak. Like, imagine being able to track how your tax dollars are being used for a specific project. See if there are any red flags, or hold officials accountable for overspending.
It's about empowering citizens with the information they need to participate in the process in a meaningful way. Because let's face it, deciphering a city budget document can feel like trying to translate hieroglyphics.
Oh, yeah.
Email correspondence, on the other hand, is something most people can easily understand and relate to.
Okay. So this transparency isn't just theoretical. The article highlights initiatives like City Council email and county email. These platforms are designed to make this information accessible to everyone.
These platforms, while still in their early stages, offer a glimpse into what's possible.
So we're not talking about like digging through dusty file cabinets.
Right.
No.
So,
This is about making information accessible online in a way that makes sense for regular people.
precisely. The article specifically talks about how these platforms are designed with user-friendliness in mind. Imagine being able to go online and type in a keyword, let's say park renovations, and instantly see all the email correspondence between city council members about that specific project.
Wow. That'd have been handy when they were debating that new playground equipment. My
Yeah,
kid's
yeah,
still
yeah.
complaining about that. But okay, so let's say this level of transparency becomes the norm. What's the bigger picture here?
That's where things get really interesting. Proponents argue that this kind of radical transparency leads to a more informed and engaged citizenry. When people feel like they're in the loop, they're more likely to participate in local government, whether it's voting, attending town hall meetings, or even just voicing their concerns.
Makes sense. And if everyone can see the discussions happening, it's a lot harder for misinformation to take root. Like,
Yeah.
remember that whole rumor about them putting a chemical plant in the old bakery? Turned out to be totally false. But it caused so much unnecessary panic.
Exactly. Transparency allows for facts and evidence to take center stage, making it more difficult for rumors and spin to gain traction.
But hold on. I do see a potential downside here. What about privacy? I mean, not every email sent to or from a government official is meant for public consumption.
You're touching on one of the biggest challenges of increased transparency, finding the right balance between openness and protecting individual privacy. The article acknowledges this concern, highlighting the need for carefully crafted guidelines and safeguards, for instance. There might need to be exemptions for certain types of sensitive information, like personal medical histories or ongoing legal matters.
Okay, that makes sense.
Mm.
We don't want to create a situation where people are afraid to reach out to their representatives for fear of having their personal lives splashed across the internet.
Exactly. There's a difference between transparency and a free-for-all. Striking that balance is crucial. And it's not just about protecting individuals. It's also about ensuring that sensitive government operations aren't compromised.
Right, like negotiations involving city contracts or security protocols, things like that. But even with those safeguards in place, isn't there a risk of information overload? Who has time to read through every single email their council member sends and receives?
That's another valid concern. The article suggests exploring AI-powered tools to help manage the flow of information. Think about algorithms that can summarize key discussions, flag relevant threads based on your interests, or even identify potential conflicts of interest. Imagine having a personalized transparency dashboard that filters through all the noise and presents you with the information that's most relevant to you.
Okay. Now that's what I'm talking about. That sounds way more manageable than trying to sift through thousands of emails.
The key takeaway here is that this isn't a one-size-fits-all solution. It requires careful thought, ongoing dialogue, and a willingness to adapt and refine the process along the way. But the potential benefits, greater accountability, reduced corruption, and a more informed and engaged citizenry are hard to ignore.
It's like anything else, really, isn't it? Like the devil's in the details. But honestly, this whole idea that we could have tools, like to just cut through all that noise and get to the heart of the matter, that's pretty exciting.
It's about moving from this model of opacity to one of transparency by design and that kind of shift. It has the potential to fundamentally change the relationship between citizens and their government.
Okay, so well, let's bring it back down to earth for a second. What does all this mean for our listeners? For the everyday person who maybe doesn't spend their days thinking about local government?
Well, it goes back to that idea we talked about earlier. Knowledge is power. By having access to this kind of information, you empower yourself to become a more active and informed participant in your community. You can start asking better questions, holding your elected officials accountable, and maybe even inspiring others to get involved.
Right, because at the end of the day, we all have a stake in this.
Right.
It's our city, our county, our future.
Precisely. And shaping that future requires all of us to be informed, engaged, and empowered to make our voices heard.
So here's a thought to take with you as you go about your day.
Yeah.
What would you do if you had that kind of access? What issues would you dig into? What questions would you ask?
Because the answer to that question, that's where the real change begins.
That's all the time we have for today's deep dive, but we encourage you to keep exploring these ideas. And as always, the links to the source material are available in the show notes. Until next time, keep asking those tough questions